when you're preparing for the listening paper, it's important to remember that you don't have to understand every single word you hear. Not every word is important. One thing that really helped me to prepare for Part A of Paper 3 was to make use of the 2-minute preparation time, so you can focus only on the information you need when you're listening. In the pre-listening stage, remember to get yourself familiar with the situation and the setting and anticipate words relating to the topic. Then highlights all the names appear in the paper and be ready to remember the voice of each speaker. Meanwhile, predict possible answers by looking at the examples provided in the paper. You can also predict answers with prepositions, articles, or different tenses. When you do that, you can have a better chance to get the answer right. Last but not the least, check your spelling and grammar after you finish the paper. Avoid making any careless mistake in Part A.
I know most of you are quite struggle in terms of how to organize your ideas in a coherent and also cogent manner for your extended task. So I'm going to share with you 3 major principles to help you to organize your ideas better. First, try to make use of different headings and subheadings to organize your ideas. And at the same time, you can make use of different keywords to construct your headings and subheadings. Moreover, you can try to make use of different cohesive devices to organize your ideas and sentences. Some examples include, for example, for instance, moreover, furthermore, however. Last but not least, in order to make your ideas to be much more coherent, you can try to group your paragraphs in a much more organized manner. For example, after you have introduced a specific problem, then you can immediately give your suggestion. At the same time, when you have given some of the measures, you can immediately to provide the effectiveness and the feasibility of your suggestion in your subsequent paragraph.
I know you're sometimes worried about reading the data file in Paper 3 Part B within a short period. So how do we exactly deal with these materials? Here are my tips. First, use a numbering system. As you read through the email or the memo that tells you what to do in each task, write down the instructions and label them not just task 6, task 7, but 6.1, 6.2, 7.1, 7.2, etc. Remember, one data can give you information for more than one task. So skim through the lines, highlight all useful information, and identify whether it's about the second point of task 6 or the first point in task 7, or both. This saves time from reading the data file over and over again. Secondly, spare as much time as possible. Remember, the note sheet is the same for both B1 and B2. Once you've decided which part to do, cross out the sections that are not for your part. When the tape talks about this useless stuff, you can earn a minute or 2 to read over the data file or even stop writing. That's all I want to share.
Today, I'd like to share with you some of my top tips on preparing for DSE English. Topic or situation analysis before any writing task is an important skill for you to get higher marks in language and organization. So always ask yourself 5 questions before you start writing. Who am I? Who am I writing to? Why am I writing to those target readers? Is it just a personal sharing, or do I have to persuade them to take actions? What is the text type or genre? Is it a speech, a letter, or story? Then, determine whether your writing should be formal, semi-formal, or informal. Having these 5 questions in mind, I believe you can produce great writings with appropriate vocabulary and structures. The same technique applies to Paper 3 as well. When I was doing DSE, I found it challenging to quickly skim through the whole data file and predict the main ideas. Therefore, I recommend you to focus on reading the situation and the contents page first after you have finished Part A. Then, if you have time, you can have a look at the page after the note-taking sheet, which is usually a summary of the writing task you have to do. There, you can find the answers to the 5 questions mentioned before. You would be much more efficient in note-taking and reading the data file if you have done this.
Hi guys, DSE exam is coming. It's terrifying, it's daunting, but here are the tips for your listening exam. First, don't just highlight your keywords, memorize them. For example, you know that photo is a keyword in your question. Don't just highlight it, memorize it, and then listen for it in the recording. When it appears, it's usually where the answer is, so beware. Second tip, listen for sequential words like next, then, finally, etc. to tell you where the next answer is, especially when you're completing lists. So be careful. Good luck, bye, and thank you.